The glass shatters before she even realizes her hand has opened. Clara Moreau stands frozen behind the bar at La Sorella, staring at the portrait they just hung on the wall across the dining room. Her chest tightens. Her vision blurs. The sound of crystal exploding against marble floor echoes through the restaurant, but she doesn't hear it. She only sees him, the boy from the orphanage, the one who taught her how to steal bread without getting caught, the one who took beatings meant for her, the one who whispered promises about fancy tables and full plates while they shivered under a single blanket 15 winters ago. Luca. His face stares back from the massive, gilded frame. Older now, harder, but unmistakable. Dark curls, sharp jaw, those same eyes that once held kindness beneath all that rage. Clara. Marisol hisses from behind her. What are you doing? Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. She can't answer. Her knees buckle. The restaurant spins. Chandeliers, white tablecloths, men in expensive suits turning to look at the clumsy waitress who just ruined the evening silence. But none of that matters, because the man who owns this place, the man everyone whispers about in terrified tones, just walked through the front door. Don Matteo Ricci. Tall, silver hair slicked back like a blade. Black suit that probably costs more than her entire year's rent. Tattoos crawl up his neck from beneath his collar. Dark ink that tells stories she'll never be allowed to hear. His presence alone makes the room shrink. Conversations die Mitsentense. Forks pause halfway to mouths. Two men in matching suits follow him, scanning the room like guards protecting royalty. Behind them, workers carry the portrait toward its permanent spot on the wall. The guests begin a polite applause. Some stand. Others nod with rehearsed respect. Clara's hands shake as she grabs a towel and kneels to clean up the broken glass. Her heartbeat hammers so loud she's certain everyone can hear it. She steals another glance at the portrait as they secure it above the fireplace. That's Luca. That's him. But how? Why is this picture hanging in a Mafia restaurant? Why does everyone look at it like they're honoring someone important? Marisol crouches beside her, helping gather the shards. Girl, you need to pull it together. Don Ricci doesn't tolerate mistakes. Who is that? Clara whispers, nodding toward the portrait. Marisol's face hardens. That's his son, Luca Ricci. He died 6 years ago. The words hit like a fist to the stomach. Clara drops the towel. Her mouth opens, but nothing comes out. Died? No, that can't be right. Luca was supposed to escape. He promised they'd both make it out. He said. Clara breathed. Marisol grips her shoulder. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe she has, because the boy she grew up with, the one who shared moldy bread and stolen hope, is now a dead man hanging on the wall of the most dangerous restaurant in Manhattan, claimed as the son of man who makes people disappear. Across the room, Matteo Ricci turns. His gray eyes cut through the space like searchlights, landing directly on her. He doesn't blink, doesn't smile, just watches. And Clara realizes with cold clarity that her life just became very complicated. Matteo Ricci moves through the restaurant like a king surveying his kingdom. Every step is calculated. Every glance carries weight. When he stops at a table, the men seated there straighten their spines and speak in quieter tones. When he nods, they exhale. When he walks away, they deflate like balloons losing air. Clara forces herself to stand, towel still clutched in her trembling hands. She can't stop staring at the portrait. The longer she looks, the more details emerge. The tattoo on Luca's neck. A small cross she remembers him sketching in the dirt outside St. Augustine's. The scar above his left eyebrow from the time he fought 3 older boys who tried to steal her shoes. It's him. It's really him. But it can't be. Luca had no family. He told her that 100 times. Said he came from nowhere, belonged to no one. Said the only person who ever mattered was her, because they were the same, forgotten, unwanted, invisible. So how did he end up here? How did he become the son of someone like Matteo Ricci? The workers finish hanging the portrait and step back. Fresh white lilies are placed on a small table beneath it. Candles flicker on either side. The guests murmur their approval. Some cross themselves. Others simply stare with something that looks like grief mixed with fear. Mateo stands before the portrait now, hands clasped behind his back. He doesn't speak, doesn't move, just stares at the painted face of the boy he called son. Clara's chest aches. She remembers the last time she saw Luca. She was 17. He was 18. They'd both aged out of the orphanage and ended up on different streets in different boroughs. He hugged her goodbye outside a subway station and said, "One day, Clara, one day we'll both eat at those fancy tables. I promise." She never saw him again. "Stop staring," Marisol whispers urgently. "Seriously, you're going to get yourself noticed." Too late. Mateo turns again, and this time his gaze doesn't just land on Clara. It locks. His expression reveals nothing, but something shifts in the air. Something heavy and dangerous. He gestures to one of his men, who immediately walks toward the bar. Clara's stomach drops. Her hands go cold. She's about to be fired. Or worse. The man stops in front of her. His voice is flat, emotionless. "Don Ricci wants to know why you dropped the glass." Clara's throat tightens. I'm sorry. It slipped. I'll pay for it." The man doesn't blink. That's not what he asked. Marisol steps forward. She's new, still getting used to the pressure. It won't happen again. But the man ignores her, eyes still fixed on Clara. He's waiting. Waiting for what? An explanation? An apology? Clara's mind races. She can't tell him the truth. She can't say, "I knew the boy in that portrait. He was my best friend. He saved my life more times than I can count." Because people who know too much about Matteo Ricci's family don't stay around long enough to talk about it. "Tell him," Clara says carefully, "that I was moved by the portrait. It's beautiful. I didn't mean any disrespect." The man studies her for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he turns and walks back to Matteo. They exchange words too quiet to hear. Matteo's expression doesn't change, but his eyes narrow slightly. Then he nods once. The man returns. "You'll serve his table tonight." Personally, Clara's heart stops. Marisol grabs her arm. No, she's not ready for that. It wasn't a request. And just like that, Clara's life tilts off its axis. Because serving Matteo Ricci's table means standing close enough to ask questions she shouldn't ask. Close enough to see if he knows who Luca really was. Close enough to uncover the truth. Or close enough to die trying. Clara's hands won't stop shaking as she arranges the silverware on Matteo's table. The dining room has quieted now. Most of the guests have finished their meals and left. Only a few remain. Men in dark suits who speak in low voices and glance occasionally toward the portrait. The candlelight flickers across Luca's painted face, making him look almost alive. Matteo sits alone at the head of the table, a glass of red wine in his hand. He hasn't touched it, just holds it, staring at the liquid like it contains answers to questions he hasn't asked yet. Clara approaches with a tray of bread and olive oil. Her footsteps feel too loud against the marble floor. When she sets the plate down, her hands tremble so badly the oil nearly spills. "Careful," Matteo says without looking at her. His voice is smooth, controlled, but there's something underneath it, something sharp and waiting. "Yes, sir. I apologize." "You apologize a lot tonight." Clara freezes. She doesn't know how to respond to that, so she says nothing. Matteo finally looks up. His gray eyes are cold, calculating. "You're the one who broke the glass." It's not a question. Clara nods anyway. "Yes, sir." "What?" The word hangs in the air like a blade. Clara's mind scrambles for an answer that won't get her killed. She can't tell him about the orphanage. Can't tell him she knew Luca. Can't tell him that seeing his face on that wall felt like being punched in the chest. "The portrait," she says carefully. "It startled me. He was very handsome." Matteo's jaw tightens. For a moment, Clara thinks she's made a terrible mistake. But then he leans back in his chair, fingers drumming once against the table. His voice is quieter now, almost distant. "My son, Luca." Clara's throat burns. She forces herself to stay calm. "I'm sorry for your loss." Matteo's eyes narrow. "You sound like you mean that." "I do." "Most people don't. They say it because they're afraid of me. But you." He tilts his head slightly, studying her like she's a puzzle he's trying to solve. "You sound like you actually care." "Because I did," Clara wants to scream. Because he was my family when I had none. Because he's the reason I'm still alive. But she doesn't say any of that. Instead, she swallows hard and says, everyone deserves to be mourned. Mateo goes still. Something flickers across his face. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. Clara can't tell which. The silence stretches so long she's certain he's about to call his men over and have her removed. Then Marisol appears beside her, nervous and pale. Clara, we need you in the kitchen. It's a lie. Clara knows it's a lie, but she's grateful for the escape route. She nods to Mateo, careful, respectful, and follows Marisol toward the back of the restaurant. Once they're out of earshot, Marisol spins around, eyes wide. What were you thinking? You can't talk to him like that. You can't. I know Luca, Clara blurts out. The words tumble out before she can stop them. The boy in the portrait. I grew up with him. In St. Augustine Orphanage. Marisol stares at her, like she's lost her mind. What? He lived with me. We were kids together. Clara's voice cracks. He told me he had no family. He said he came from nothing. Marisol grabs her shoulders. Listen to me very carefully. You cannot tell anyone that. Do you understand? People who dig into Don Ricci's past don't live long enough to regret it. But what if he doesn't know? What if Luca never told him? Then that's his secret to keep, not yours to uncover. Marisol's grip tightens. Clara, I'm serious. You need to forget what you saw. Forget what you know. Or you'll end up just like Luca, dead and hanging on a wall. But Clara can't forget. Because if Luca was Mateo's son, then who killed him? And why? And more importantly, does Mateo know the truth about the boy he raised? The restaurant is closed now. Clara stands in the empty hallway outside Mateo's office, heart pounding so hard she feels dizzy. She shouldn't be here. She should have listened to Marisol and gone home. But she can't. Not when every instinct in her body is screaming that something is wrong. Luca didn't just die. He was murdered. Marisol confirmed it earlier when Clara pressed her for details. A car explosion 6 years ago. No weaknesses. No arrests. Just another unsolved killing in a city full of them. But Luca wasn't just anyone. He was the son of a Mafia boss, which means someone wanted him dead badly enough to risk Mateo's wrath. And Clara needs to know why. She raises her hand to knock on the office door, but before her knuckles touch the wood, Mateo's voice comes from inside. Come in. Clara's breath catches. How did he know she was there? She hesitates, then pushes the door open. The office is dimmer than she expected. A single desk lamp casts long shadows across the walls. Shelves lined with books and framed photos fill the space. In the center of it all sits Mateo, cigar smoke curling around his face like fog. Behind him, another portrait of Luca, smaller than the one in the dining room, but just as haunting. Mateo doesn't look up. You've been standing in that hallway for 3 minutes. Either come in or leave. Clara steps inside, closing the door behind her. Her legs feel like they might give out. I'm sorry to bother you, sir. You want to talk about my son? The words hit like a slap. Clara freezes. Mateo finally looks at her, and this time there's no mask. Just raw, unfiltered pain beneath the surface. How did you know? She whispers. Because I've been watching people lie to me for 30 years. I know when someone's hiding something. He sets a cigar down, leaning forward. So let's skip the games. Tell me why you really broke that glass. Clara's hands clench into fists. This is it. The moment where she either tells the truth or walks away forever. Her mind screams at her to run, but her heart won't let her. I knew him, she says, voice shaking. Luca, I knew him before he was your son. The silence that follows is suffocating. Mateo's face goes completely still. His eyes darken. For a moment, Clara thinks she's made the worst mistake of her life. Then he speaks, and his voice is barely above a whisper. Explain. We grew up together at St. Augustine Orphanage, from the time I was 7 until I aged out at 17. Clara's throat tightens, but she forces herself to continue. He was my best friend, my only friend. He protected me, kept me alive when no one else cared. Mateo's jaw clenches. Luca never talked about his childhood, because it was hell. Tears burn Clara's eyes now, but she doesn't wipe them away. We were cold, hungry, forgotten. The staff barely fed us. The older kids stole what little we had. But Luca, he made it bearable. He promised me that one day we'd both escape, that we'd eat at fancy tables and never be hungry again. Matteo stands slowly, the chair scraping against the floor. He walks to the portrait, hands clasped behind his back. I found him on the streets when he was 14. Bloody, angry, half-starved. I gave him a home, a name, a future, and he loved you for it, Clara says quietly. I know he did, because he always wanted a family. He never told me he found one. Matteo turns, and for the first time, Clara sees the cracks in his armor. The grief he's been holding back. He was murdered 6 years ago. Quelle explosion. I spent every resource I trying to find who did it. I came up empty. Clara's chest tightens. He told me something once, before I lost touch with him. He said, she hesitates, but it's too late to stop now. He said there was someone close to you he didn't trust. Someone named Vito. The name drops like a stone into water. Matteo goes completely still. His eyes flash with something dangerous, recognition, maybe, or rage. What did you just say? Vito, Clara repeats, her voice barely audible. Lucas said he overheard him talking about a plan. He didn't know what it meant, but scared him. Matteo's hands curl into fists. His breathing changes slower, deeper, like a storm gathering strength. Vito La Rosa was with him the night he died. The words hang in the air like poison. And Clara realizes with cold, absolute certainty that she just changed everything. Because if Vito was there when Luca died, and Luca didn't trust him, then Matteo's right-hand man might be the reason his son is dead. Matteo doesn't move for a long time. He just stands there, staring at the portrait of Luca like he's seeing it for the first time. The cigar in the ashtray burns itself out. The silence in the office becomes heavy, suffocating. Clara wants to leave. Every instinct tells her she's said too much, uncovered something too dangerous. But her feet won't move. Because watching Matteo process this information feels like watching a mountain crack from the inside out. Finally, he speaks. His voice is rough, broken. Tell me about him. The boy you knew. Clara blinks, surprised. What? Tell me what he was like. Before I found him. Matteo turns to face her, and the mask is gone completely now. He's just a father desperate to know his son. I need to hear it. Clara sinks into the chair across from his desk. Her hands tremble as she folds them in her lap. He was brave. Reckless sometimes, but brave. He'd fight anyone who tried to hurt me, even if they were twice his size. A ghost of a smile touches Matteo's lips. That sounds like him. He hated injustice, Clara continues. Hated bullies. Hated people who preyed on the weak. One time, an older boy stole food from a kid who was sick. Luca beat him so badly they had to pull him off. He got locked in a basement for 2 days as punishment, but he didn't care. He said some things are worth fighting for. Matteo's eyes glisten. He doesn't wipe them, just listens. And he was kind, Clara whispers. In a place where kindness got you killed, he was still kind. He'd share his blanket when it was freezing. He'd give up his food if someone else was hungrier. He made me laugh when I wanted to give up. What did he talk about? When you were alone? Freedom. Family. Belonging somewhere. Clara's voice cracks. He used to say that one day we'd both sit at a table covered in food, and we'd eat until we couldn't move. He said we'd have people who loved us. People who saw us. Matteo closes his eyes. He got that. I gave him that. I know. Clara's tears fall freely now. And I'm glad. Because he deserved it. He deserved everything you gave him. Matteo returns to his desk, sinking into the chair like the weight of the world just doubled. He pours 2 glasses of wine and slides one across to Clara. She takes it with shaking hands. You gave me something tonight, he says quietly. A piece of him I thought was lost forever. Thank you. Clara nods, unable to speak. They sit in silence for a moment, both lost in memories of the same boy from different lifetimes. Then Matteo's expression hardens. The grief transforms into something colder, sharper. Vito La Rosa has been my right hand for 12 years. He was there when Luca died. He told me the explosion was an ambush from a rival family. He swore he barely escaped himself. But if Luca didn't trust him, then I've been living with my son's killer for 6 years. Matteo's voice drops to a deadly whisper, and he's going to pay for every second of it. Clara's blood runs cold. She's just set something in motion that can't be stopped. A reckoning. A storm. Matteo stands, buttoning his jacket. You need to leave now. Go home. Forget this conversation ever happened. But, Clara. He looks at her, and for the first time, she sees the full weight of who he is. Not a father. Not a grieving man. A predator. What's about to happen isn't something you should witness. Go. Now. Clara rises on unsteady legs. She walks to the door, then pauses. What are you going to do? Matteo doesn't answer. Just picks up his phone and dials a number. His voice is calm, controlled. Vito, I need you at the restaurant tomorrow night. Private dinner. Just us. We need to talk. And Clara realizes with absolute certainty that Vito LaRosa just received his last invitation. What would you do if you discovered the truth about someone's death? Stay silent to protect yourself, or speak up knowing it could destroy everything? Drop your answer below. Clara doesn't sleep that night. She lies in her cramped studio apartment, staring at the water-stained ceiling, replaying every word Matteo said. Every look, every shift in his expression when she mentioned Vito's name. The way his entire body changed from grieving father to something far more dangerous. By dawn, she's convinced herself she made a mistake. She should have kept her mouth shut, should have let the past stay buried. But the image of Luca's face, young, hopeful, promising her a better future, won't leave her mind. She drags herself to work at noon, exhausted and anxious. The restaurant looks different in daylight, less glamorous, more like what it really is, a front for power wrapped in expensive decor. Marisol corners her the moment she walks through the staff entrance. Where were you last night? After your shift? Clara hesitates. I had to talk to someone. Who? It doesn't matter. Marisol's eyes narrow. Please tell me you didn't do what I think you did. Clara doesn't answer. She can't, because lying to Marisol feels wrong, but telling the truth feels dangerous. Clara. Marisol's voice drops to a harsh whisper. Did you talk to Don Ricci about Luca? The silence between them is answer enough. Marisol steps back, face pale. You're insane. You know that. Completely insane. He deserved to know the truth. The truth. Marisol laughs, but there's no humor in it. The truth gets people killed in this world. You just signed your own death warrant. I helped him find his son's killer. Marisol shakes her head, eyes filled with something between pity and terror. You don't understand what you've done. When Don Ricci moves against someone, it's not quick. It's not clean. It's calculated. Brutal. And everyone connected to it gets caught in the blast. Clara's stomach twists. I didn't mean. It doesn't matter what you meant. What matters is that tonight, Vito LaRosa is having dinner with Matteo. Private. Just the two of them. Marisol's voice trembles. And you're the one who's going to serve them. The words hit like ice water. Clara's heart stops. What? Matteo requested you specifically. Said you're the only server he trusts tonight. Clara's legs go weak. She grabs the counter to steady herself. I can't do that. I can't. You don't have a choice. Marisol grips her shoulders. Listen to me very carefully. When you walk into that room tonight, you keep your head down. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't react to anything you see or hear. You serve the food, pour the wine, and you leave. Understand? Clara nods, but her mind is racing. Because Matteo doesn't just want her there to serve dinner. He wants a witness. Someone who knows the truth about Luca. Someone who can confirm what he already suspects. And if Vito realizes why she's really there, she won't make it out of that room alive. The hours crawl by. Clara moves through her shift like a ghost, refilling water glasses and clearing plates on autopilot. Every time the front door opens, her heart jumps. Every time she hears footsteps in the hallway, she expects to see Matteo's men coming for her. But nothing happens. Not until 7 o'clock, when the restaurant closes early. The staff is sent home. The lights in the main dining room are dimmed, and Clara is told to report to the private room on the second floor. She climbs the stairs on trembling legs. The hallway is empty, silent except for the sound of her shoes against the hardwood. At the end of the corridor, A single door stands open. Candlelight flickers from inside. Clara stops at the threshold, heart hammering. The room is small, intimate. A single table set for two. White tablecloth, crystal glasses, and on the wall behind the table, another portrait of Luca, this one even larger, as if Matteo wanted his son watching everything that's about to happen. Matteo sits at the head of the table, dressed in a black suit with no tie. His expression is calm, unreadable. Across from him sits Vito La Rosa, older, with graying temples and a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. He's laughing at something, wine glass already half empty. Then Matteo looks up and sees Clara. His gaze locks onto hers for just a moment, and in that brief second, she understands. This isn't just dinner. It's a trial, and she's about to watch a man get sentenced to death. "Ah, our server," Vito says, turning to look at her. His smile widens. "You're new, aren't you? I don't recognize you." Clara forces herself to nod. "Yes, sir. I've only been here a few months." "Well, don't be nervous. Tonight's a celebration." Vito raises his glass toward Matteo. To old friends and new beginnings. Matteo doesn't raise his glass, just watches Vito with cold, calculating eyes. "To truth," he says quietly, "and the consequences that follow it." Something shifts in the air. Vito's smile falters for just a heartbeat before he recovers. "Of course, truth and consequences, the foundation of our friendship." Clara moves to the side table where the first course is waiting. Her hands shake as she places the plates in front of them. Roasted duck, truffle risotto, food that costs more than her weekly paycheck. But neither man looks at it. They're too busy watching each other. "Clara," Matteo says without breaking eye contact with Vito, "tell me something. How long have you worked here?" Her throat tightens. 3 months, sir. "And in those 3 months, have you learned anything interesting about this place?" Vito's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. His eyes flick to Clara, then back to Matteo. "What kind of question is that?" "A simple one." Matteo leans back in his chair. "I'm curious what stories my staff hears. What rumors float around the kitchen." Clara's pulse races. She knows what he's doing. He's testing Vito, pushing him, waiting to see if he'll break. "Just that it's a family business," she says carefully. "And that family is everything here." Matteo's lips curl into something that might be a smile. "Family. Yes, that's what I thought too." He finally picks up his wine glass, swirling the liquid. "Until I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones holding the knife." Vito sets his fork down. The casual mask slips. "Matteo, what's this about?" "Luca." The name drops like a bomb. Vito goes completely still. His face drains of color. "What about him?" "I've been thinking about the night he died." Matteo's voice is soft, dangerous. "About how convenient it was that you survived the explosion without a scratch. About how quickly you moved into his position after he was gone." "Are you accusing me of something?" "I'm asking you a question." Matteo leans forward, eyes blazing. "Were you the one who killed my son?" The silence that follows is suffocating. Clara's heart pounds so hard she thinks it might explode. She wants to run, wants to disappear, but her feet are frozen to the floor. Vito's jaw clenches. His hands curl into fists. "How dare you? After everything I've done for you. After 12 years of loyalty." "Loyalty?" Matteo's laugh is harsh, bitter. "You call it loyalty to murder the one person I loved more than my own life." "I didn't." "Don't lie to me." Matteo stands slowly, chair scraping against the floor. "I know, Vito. I know everything." And that's when Clara sees it. The flicker of panic in Vito's eyes. The way his hand moves toward his jacket, where she's certain there's a gun hidden. The way his breathing changes. He's going to run, or fight. Either way, this room is about to become a war zone. Will Vito confess? Or will he take his chances against the most dangerous man in New York? Comment what you think happens next. Vito's hand freezes halfway to his jacket, because Matteo's men are already there. They emerge from the shadows like ghosts, two on each side of the room, guns drawn, faces expressionless. The door clicks shut behind Clara. The lock turns with a sound like a coffin closing. Vito's eyes dart from man to man, calculating his odds. Then he looks back at Matteo, and the mask finally shatters. You set me up. No. Matteo's voice is ice. You set yourself up 6 years ago when you planted that bomb in my son's car. You can't prove anything. Can I? Matteo nods toward Clara. This young woman knew Luca, grew up with him in an orphanage, and before he died, he told her something interesting. He said he overheard you talking about a plan that scared him. Vito's gaze snaps to Clara. His eyes narrow with pure hatred. So this is your doing? Clara's mouth goes dry. She wants to deny it, wants to disappear, but the words won't come. Because he's right. She's the reason this is happening. She's the match that lit the fire. Don't look at her, Matteo says, voice sharp as a blade. Look at me. Because I'm the one who's going to decide whether you leave this room alive. Vito's face contorts with rage. You think you're so righteous? So perfect? Luca was weak, Matteo. He didn't have the stomach for this life. He was going to ruin everything you built. The confession hangs in the air like poison. Clara's breath catches. Matteo goes completely still. What did you say? Vito laughs, but it's ugly, desperate. He found out about the trafficking routes, the real money we were making, and he threatened to go to the feds. Your precious son was going to betray you, so you killed him. Matteo's words are barely above a whisper, but they carry the weight of mountains. I saved your empire. Vito slams his fist on the table. I did what you were too blind to do. I protected what we built. Matteo moves so fast Clara doesn't see it coming. One moment, he's standing across the table. The next, he has Vito by the throat, lifting him out of his chair like he weighs nothing. The wine glasses shatter on the floor. The candles flicker wildly. You kill my son. Matteo growls, face inches from Vito's. You murdered him and made me believe it was an enemy. You let me mourn while you stood at my side, pretending to grieve with me. Vito claws at Matteo's hand, gasping for air. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Matteo's grip tightens. And you made yours. Clara watches, frozen, as the color drains from Vito's face. His movements become weaker. His eyes start to roll back. For a moment, she thinks Matteo is going to kill him right there. Choke the life out of him in front of everyone. But then Matteo releases him. Vito collapses to the floor, coughing and gasping. Matteo stands over him, breathing hard, hands still clenched into fists. I'm not going to kill you, Matteo says quietly. That would be too kind. Too quick. He nods to his men. They move forward, grabbing Vito by the arms and hauling him to his feet. Vito struggles, but it's useless. He's outnumbered and outmatched. You're going to disappear, Matteo continues, voice cold and final. No body, no grave, no memory. You'll be erased from this world like you never existed. And every day, for the rest of your miserable life, you're going to regret what you took from me. Vito's face crumbles. The rage dissolves into terror. Matteo, please. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'll do anything. You had your chance to do the right thing 6 years ago. Matteo turns away, unable to look at him anymore. Now you get to live with what you've done. In darkness. In silence. Forever. The men drag Vito toward the door. He screams, begs, promises things he can never deliver. But Matteo doesn't turn around, doesn't flinch, just stands there, staring at the portrait of Luca, shoulders shaking with suppressed emotion. The door closes. The screams fade, and then there's only silence. Clara realizes she's crying. Tears stream down her face, but she doesn't know if they're for Luca, for Matteo, or for herself. Maybe all three. Matteo finally turns to look at her. His eyes are red, raw. You should go. I'm sorry, Clara whispers. I'm so sorry. Don't be. He walks to the portrait, reaching up to touch the frame. You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Answers. Closure. His voice breaks. Justice. Clara moves toward the door on shaking legs. But before she leaves, she stops. Luca loved you. I know he did. Whatever Vito said about him betraying you, it's not the whole truth. Luca believed in doing what was right, even when it was hard. That's who he was. Matteo's shoulders sag. He nods once, unable to speak. Clara slips out of the room, closing the door behind her. In the hallway, She leans against the wall, legs threatening to give out. Her entire body trembles. She just witnessed something she'll never be able to forget. A reckoning. A tragedy. A father's grief turned into cold, calculated vengeance. And she's the one who made it happen. Downstairs, the restaurant is empty and dark. The only light comes from the street lamps outside, casting long shadows across the floor. Clara walks through the dining room one last time, past the tables where she used to serve, past the bar where she dropped that glass, past the portrait of Luca that started everything. She stops in front of it, staring up at his painted face. "I hope you're at peace now," she whispers. "I hope you know your father loved you, that he would have done anything for you." The portrait doesn't answer, but for just a moment, in the flickering candlelight, Clara swears she sees Luca's smile. 3 days pass before Clara hears from Matteo again. She goes to work each morning expecting to be fired, expecting Matteo's men to show up and tell her she knows too much, that she's a liability, that she needs to disappear like Vito did. But nothing happens. The restaurant operates like normal. Guests come and go. Marisol watches her with worried eyes, but doesn't ask questions. And the portrait of Luca remains on the wall, a silent witness to everything that's changed. Then, on the 4th day, an envelope arrives. No return address, just her name written in elegant script on the front. Inside, a single card with an address in Brooklyn and a time, 6 p.m. Clara almost doesn't go, almost throws the card away and pretends she never received it. But curiosity wins. Or maybe it's something else, a need for closure, a desire to know that she didn't destroy everything by telling the truth. The address leads to a warehouse by the water. Old, industrial, the kind of place where deals are made and secrets are buried. Clara's heart pounds as she approaches the entrance. A man in a black suit stands guard outside. He nods when he sees her, opens the door without a word. Inside, the space has been transformed. What should be cold and empty is warm, filled with soft lighting and the smell of fresh flowers. And in the center of it all stands Matteo, hands in his pockets, staring out a window at the darkening sky. He doesn't turn when Clara enters, just speaks to the glass. "Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" "Always." He finally looks at her, and his expression is softer than she's ever seen it. "I want to talk to you, away from the restaurant, away from everything." Clara walks closer, cautious. Is Vito gone? That's all you need to know. The finality in his voice tells her not to ask more. She nods, clasping her hands in front of her. Matteo gestures to a table set up near the window. 2 chairs, a bottle of wine. Simple, intimate, nothing like the deadly dinner 3 nights ago. They sit. Matteo pours the wine with steady hands. When he speaks again, his voice is quiet. "I spent 6 years trying to find out who killed my son. I interrogated people, paid informants, destroyed entire operations looking for answers. And the whole time, the person responsible was right beside me, eating at my table, calling me friend." Clara's throat tightens. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." He looks at her, really looks at her. "You're the only person who told me the truth. Even knowing it could get you killed, you spoke up." "Why?" "Because Luca deserved justice. And because," she hesitates, then continues, "because I know what it's like to lose someone and never get answers. To wonder every day if you could have done something different. I didn't want that for you." Matteo's eyes glisten. He blinks rapidly, clearing them. "He was right about you. You are too soft for this world." He used to say that. And yet here you are, still standing, still fighting. Matteo leans back in his chair. "I've been thinking a lot these past few days. About Luca, about what he would have wanted, what he believed in." Clara waits, unsure where this is going. "He hated this life," Matteo continues. "The violence, the corruption. He stayed because he loved me, but his heart was never in it. He wanted something different, something cleaner. He wanted to help people," Clara says softly. "He always did. Even as a kid, when we had nothing, he'd find ways to make things better for others." Matteo nods slowly. "Then that's what we'll do. In his name." "What do you mean?" He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded document, slides it across the table to Clara. She unfolds it, eyes scanning the words, and her breath catches. It's a deed. Tu la sorella. Made out in her name. I don't understand, she whispers. The restaurant is yours now, Matteo says. La sorella means the sister in Italian. Luca chose that name when we bought the place. He said it reminded him of someone important. Someone who kept him human when the world tried to make him hard. Tears blur Clara's vision. He meant me. He did. And now it's yours. Run it however you want. Turn it into whatever you think he would have wanted it to be. I'll provide the funding. You provide the vision. Clara stares at the document, unable to process what's happening. Why would you do this? Because my son loved you like family. Because you gave me the truth when everyone else gave me lies. And because Matteo's voice cracks. Because I need to know that something good came from all this pain. That his death wasn't meaningless. Clara looks up at him, sees the grief etched into every line of his face. This man who terrifies an entire city is just a father trying to find meaning in his son's memory. I'll do it, she says, voice steady. I'll make it something he'd be proud of. Matteo nods, relief washing over his features. There's one condition. What? The portrait stays. Exactly where it is. I want everyone who walks through those doors to see him, to remember him. Clara smiles through her tears. I wouldn't have it any other way. They sit in silence for a moment, two people connected by tragedy and memory, finding a strange kind of peace in the ruins of what was lost. Then Matteo stands buttoning his jacket. I won't be around much anymore. I'm stepping back from the business, letting others run things. I've spent too many years building an empire and not enough time being a father. He pauses at the door. But if you ever need anything, you call me. Understand? Clara nods. Thank you. For everything. Matteo looks back one last time. No, thank you. For giving me back my son, even if only in memory. Then he's gone, footsteps echoing in the empty warehouse until they fade to nothing. Clara sits alone, the deed in her hands. Luca's ghost surrounding her like a promise finally kept. 6 months later, La Sorella looks different. The dark wood paneling is still there. The elegant tables, the chandeliers. But something fundamental has shifted. The air feels lighter, warmer, like the building itself is breathing easier. Clara stands at the entrance, watching the evening crowd arrive. But these aren't wealthy businessmen making deals over expensive wine. These are single mothers with tired eyes, veterans struggling to find work, kids who aged out of foster care with nowhere to go, people like she used to be, people like Luca used to be. She's turned the restaurant into something new. Half of it still operates as the high-end establishment it always was, because the money from that side funds everything else. But the other half is a community kitchen, free meals for those who need them, job training for those who want it, a safe space for those who have nowhere else to turn. Marisol walks up beside her, carrying a tray of fresh bread. Table 6 needs more water. And the new kid in the kitchen wants to know if you have a minute to check his sauce. Clara smiles. Tell him I'll be right there. You know, Marisol says, voice softer now. I didn't think you could pull this off. Thought you were crazy for even trying. And now I think Luca would be proud of you. The words hit deeper than Clara expected. She blinks back tears. I hope so. I know so. Marisol squeezes her shoulder, then heads back toward the kitchen. Clara walks through the dining room, checking on guests. She stops at a table where a young woman sits with 2 small children. The woman's clothes are worn, her face drawn with exhaustion. But when Clara brings them their food, real food, hot and plentiful, the woman's eyes fill with tears. Thank you, she whispers. You don't know what this means. I do, Clara says gently. I really do. She moves on, greeting more people, listening to their stories. Each one reminds her of the nights she spent cold and hungry. The times Luca stole food so she wouldn't starve. The promises they made each other that seemed impossible back then. When she reaches the portrait of Luca on the wall, she stops. Fresh white lilies sit on the table beneath it, just like Matteo used to keep there. But now there's something else. A small brass plaque that reads, to those who came from nothing but gave everything. In memory of Luca Ricci, brother, friend, fighter for the forgotten. Clara touches the frame gently. We did it, she whispers. We're eating at the fancy tables now, just like you promised. A hand touches her shoulder. She turns to find Mateo standing there. He comes by sometimes, always quietly, never drawing attention. Just sits in the corner, watches the people Clara helps, and occasionally lets himself smile. The place looks good, he says. Really good. It's what he would have wanted. It is. Mateo looks up at the portrait. I used to come here and see only pain, only loss. But now his voice catches. Now I see hope. I see him living on through what you're building. Clara's throat tightens. He's still teaching me, even now, how to be brave, how to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Mateo nods, unable to speak. They stand together in silence. Two people forever bound by the memory of a boy who refused to let the world make him cold. Then a crash sounds from the kitchen. Someone yells for Clara. She laughs, wiping her eyes. Duty calls. Go. Mateo's voice is rough but kind. I'll sit and watch for a while. Make sure everything's running smooth. Clara heads toward the kitchen, but she looks back once. Mateo is sitting at his usual table in the corner, looking smaller somehow. More human. Less like the feared Mafia boss and more like what he really is, a father learning to heal. The kitchen is chaos. The new cook has burned the sauce. Two servers are arguing about table assignments. The dishwasher is overflowing. But Clara doesn't panic. She just rolls up her sleeves and gets to work. Because this is what Luca taught her. That family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, fighting for each other, making something good out of the broken pieces. And as she stirs the new batch of sauce, laughing at someone's joke, surrounded by people who have become her family, she feels it. The warmth she spent her whole childhood searching for. The belonging she thought she'd never find. She's home. Finally. After all these years of running and surviving and hoping, she's found her place. And somewhere, she knows Luca is smiling. The city is quiet tonight. Rain taps against the windows of La Sorella, soft and steady. The last guests have left. The kitchen is clean. The tables are set for tomorrow. And Clara stands alone in the dining room, looking at the portrait one last time before locking up. She does this every night now. Has a conversation with Luca's painted face. Tells him about her day, about the people she helped, about the small victories and the ongoing struggles. It's become a ritual, a way to keep him close. We served 83 people today, she says quietly. 42 paid customers and 41 who couldn't. But everyone ate well. Everyone left full. She smiles. You'd be proud of Jamal, the kid I hired last month. He's learning fast. Reminds me of you, actually. Same fire in his eyes. The portrait doesn't answer, but Clara doesn't need it to. She can hear Luca's voice in her memory, clear as the day they said goodbye. You're stronger than you think, Clara. Don't ever forget that. She was 12 when he first said those words. A bigger kid had stolen her shoes, and she was crying behind the orphanage. Luca found her, gave her his own shoes even though they were too big, and made her promise to never give up. I kept that promise, she whispers now. Even when it was hard, even when I wanted to quit, I kept fighting. Footsteps sound behind her. She turns to find Mateo entering through the back door, rain dripping from his coat. He's been doing this more lately, showing up at odd hours, helping clean, talking to the people Clara serves. Slowly becoming part of the community she's building. Couldn't sleep, he says by way of explanation. Thought I'd check in. Clara nods. They've developed an easy understanding in these months. No need for long explanations or awkward small talk. Just presence. Just shared grief, transforming into shared purpose. They stand together in front of the portrait. Outside, thunder rumbles low in the distance. I had a dream about him last night, Mateo says. First one in years that didn't feel like a nightmare. He was young, maybe 16, and he was laughing, really laughing. I can't even remember what about. But when I woke up, I realized something. Clara waits. He's not really gone. Mateo continues, voice thick with emotion. Not as long as we keep doing this. Keep helping people the way he always wanted to. He lives on in every person who walks through these doors and finds hope when they thought there was none left. Tears slide down Clara's cheeks. He saved my life more times than I can count. This is me returning the favor. For both of you. Mateo pulls an envelope from his coat and hands it to her. What's this? The deed to 3 more properties. All in your name. All ready to be transformed into whatever you want. More community kitchens, shelters, job training centers. He looks at her seriously. You started something good here, Clara. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it impossible to ignore. Clara opens the envelope, sees the addresses. Her hands shake. This is too much. I can't. You can, and you will, because that's who you are. That's who Lucas saw in you all those years ago. Mateo's voice is firm but gentle. He believed you could change the world. Now I believe it too. Clara hugs him then. It's sudden, unexpected, but Mateo doesn't pull away. He just holds her, this young woman who gave him back his son in the only way that mattered. Through memory, through truth, through love that refused to die. When they finally separate, both are crying. Both are smiling. Both are carrying the weight of loss and the lightness of hope in equal measure. Thank you, Clara whispers, for trusting me, for believing in this. No, thank you, for showing me that there's still good in this world, that not everything has to be built on fear and power. Mateo looks at the portrait one last time. You taught me how to be the father he always needed, even if it's too late. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be. The words hang in the air like a benediction. Outside, the rain begins to slow. The storm is passing. Mateo pulls his coat tighter and heads toward the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be busy. It always is. Clara smiles. But I wouldn't have it any other way. When she's alone again, Clara turns off the lights one by one. The dining room falls into darkness except for the soft glow from the street lamps outside. They cast long shadows across the floor, making the portrait look almost alive. We did it, Luca, she says to the darkness. We're eating at the fancy tables. We're feeding others at fancy tables. We made it out. And for just a moment, maybe it's the rain, maybe it's her imagination, she hears his voice. Young and hopeful and full of impossible dreams. Told you we would. Clara locks the door behind her and steps out into the cool night air. The city stretches out before her, vast and unforgiving, but also full of possibility. Full of people who need what she's building. Full of stories waiting to be told. She pulls her coat tight and starts walking. Not toward home. Toward the next location Mateo gave her. Toward the next community she'll help build. Toward the next life she'll change. Because that's what family does. They show up. They fight. They refuse to let the darkness win. And as she disappears into the Manhattan night, the rain finally stops. The clouds part, and somewhere above it all, the stars shine a little brighter. This story proves that your past doesn't define your future. Your choices do. If this moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that inspires. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let's build a community of hope together, one story at a time.